All right, let's get into it. Today, we're going to talk about a really powerful idea from author Mark Devan. It's all about how we deal with life's biggest challenges. And it comes down to a choice that, a lot of the time, we don't even know we're making.
So, what's this all about? Well, it boils down to this one question. When things get tough, I mean really tough, what's our go-to move? Do we go for the simple, easy answer, even when we know, deep down, it's not going to fix the real issue?
And this is what the author, Mark Devan, calls the elephant in the room. You know the feeling, right? There's this massive, obvious problem staring everyone in the face, but nobody wants to talk about it. Why? Because it's just too hard, too uncomfortable. So instead, we kind of all agree to focus on, well, easier stories.
Okay, so this puts us at a really fundamental crossroads. It's all about how we deal with that gap. You know, the gap between what we think should be and, well, what is.
And look, this has nothing to do with whether the world is fair or not. The author's point is, hey, bad stuff happens. That's just a fact of life. The real question, the one that matters, is what do you do after it happens? How you choose to deal with that gap between your expectations and reality, that's what determines everything.
Now, this is where he makes a pretty bold claim. He says, when it comes right down to it, nobody can solve your problems for you. Not the government, not your doctor, not even your partner or your family. He even says, a prophet could literally show up on your doorstep and it wouldn't make a difference until that decision to change comes from inside you. So, this really sets up two completely different ways of living, right? Two mindsets. The question is, which one will you choose? Are you going to be a victim of your circumstances, or are you going to be the victor of your response?
All right, let's explore that first path. The author calls it the victim mindset trap. And he's got a point. It can feel kind of good in the moment, but he argues it's basically a dead end.
And he talks about a very specific version of this trap that he sees today, which he calls the identity politics trap. Now, his argument is that this ideology seems to offer easy answers because it takes the focus off of your individual story and puts it squarely on your identity as part of a group. So when things like your race, your gender, or your nationality become the main way you see the world, the author says you get squeezed into these really narrow boxes. And that way of thinking ignores something super important. Every single person has a unique story. I mean, think about it. Not even two siblings have the exact same life experience.
And here's the real kicker, according to the author, blaming the past or blaming someone else, it doesn't actually fix anything. In fact, he argues it does the opposite. It keeps the problem alive. It keeps it right there in front of you, and it stops you from ever moving on.
And this quote really sums up his biggest warning. He's saying that the ultimate price you pay for this mindset is your own power. You end up relying on a story that somebody else wrote for you instead of grabbing the pen and writing your own.
But okay, it's not all doom and gloom because the author lays out this really powerful alternative, a completely different path that's not about blame, it's about power.
I love this. It's so simple, but it says everything. The key isn't out there somewhere. It's not lost. It's right here. It's in your hands.
Okay, this is a really important distinction the author makes. He's not saying that whatever happened to you is your fault. Not at all. What he is saying is that the story you tell yourself about it and what you do next, that part is 100% your responsibility.
This chart just lays it out so perfectly. See, victim blaming is all about looking backwards, pointing fingers, assigning fault. And where does that leave you? Powerless. But personal responsibility, that's about looking forward. It's about taking ownership of your response right now, in the present. And that, the author says, is where all your power is.
And this idea isn't supposed to feel like some heavy weight on your shoulders. It's the opposite. The author frames this as the ultimate superpower. Believing that you hold the key, that's what gives you the strength to do incredible things. To move mountains. It's the launch pad for everything else.
All right, so how do we put all this into practice? Let's bring it all together with a simple, powerful rule for navigating a pretty complex life.
I think this visual just says it all. Imagine your entire life is this circle. That tiny little slice, just 10%, that's the stuff that happens to you, the things you can't control. But that huge, massive piece, the other 90%, that's all you. That's your response. In psychology, they talk about shifting your locus of control from external to internal. This is exactly that, and it's an absolute game changer.
And really, if you remember one thing, let it be this. This quote is the whole philosophy in a nutshell. Life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you respond. We can't always choose our circumstances, but we can always choose a response. So we're back to that elephant in the room. And the author's final point is a serious one. Choosing to ignore it, choosing that easy story over the harder truth of your own responsibility, well, that's not a free choice. It has a huge cost. And that cost is your own power, your own potential.
But ultimately, this whole idea is incredibly empowering, isn't it? The past, yeah, that's written. You can't change it. But the next chapter? The story of your response? That's a totally blank page. The pen is right there, in your hand. So the only question is, what are you going to write?